Uh, really just kind of building on what I said earlier today. If you ask why, why am I out, and why am I wanting to, make a statement, and obviously it was all precipitated by, some allegations, some accusations that were unsubstantiated a couple of weeks ago regarding some articles and things of that nature. And the reason I'm out today is because I want to speak truth. That's just as simple as I can make it. I want to speak truth. And it was really good that Auburn came out today and was able to refute a lot of the allegations that were made. I think they did a very, very good job on not giving opinion, but backing everything up with fact. And I think that was the right thing to do. And I'm in a position where I can simply come out and speak truth. So that's the nature of, of me being in this position right now. I think one of the things that happens in the media a lot of times is when you have very inflammatory and accusatory articles that come out, either on TV, articles that come out in addition to TV and radio. Unfortunately, the way the world works is that the initial story gets all of the coverage, and then whatever the follow-up is to that doesn't get near as much of the coverage. And again, it's important for me today that as Auburn makes their statement and I talk about things that are important to me, that were accusations and indictments towards me and my family. I want to make sure that truth is there, and the truth now is as big as the allegations at the beginning. Because unfortunately in the world of media, good or bad, one way or the other, it usually doesn't end up being that way. So that being said, I'm happy to be able to come out today and talk about several different issues. And one thing that I do want to note, that when you have things that happen like this, there's a lot of families, there's a lot of children, there's a lot of people that are affected by things that come out, again, that are unsubstantiated and backed up with no fact. And that's very bothersome. And so, again, I'm here to speak truth. So, with that, I can open it up to questions for you guys. And again, I will do my best to answer it to the best of my ability.
Gene, clearly you're taking this very personally. You cited family. Are you pursuing legal action against Selena Roberts for her story?
No, I'm not pursuing. I'm pursuing the truth. I'm pursuing the truth. And again, my point to that was simply that, this is big picture. Whenever there's things that are put out there for people to have to respond to that aren't thoroughly investigated or, in my opinion, very flawed, you simply hurt a lot of people. And it's not just me. I'm talking broad statement. You hurt a lot of people. So if everybody's going to be professional in their job, it doesn't matter what you do. You do your best to gather the facts and present truth. Doesn't matter what your job is. And I just don't think that was very thoroughly done.
Gene, how tough was it to have to sit and, especially that 2010 season, and see Cam kind of raked over the coals and not be able to defend him like you wanted to?
Well, let me say this, Jason, because I think that's a great question. I'm going to start with that 2010, but I'm going to even make that a bigger picture, because and I said this earlier today, what is somewhat of an enigma to me is how back in 2010, what started out as a Mississippi State problem all of a sudden became an Auburn problem. It never ended. It went on for 13 or 14 months. And then there seemed to be a trail that kept following of a lot of accusations, a lot of allegations, But I'm looking for facts. And it's very difficult for the Auburn people, and it's not fair. It's very difficult for the Auburn people who were, at that point in time, including our coaches and our players and our staff, having a magical season that people dream about. And whether we like it or not, there's always the elephant in the room. There's always the distraction of, yeah, but the asterisk, we didn't do anything wrong. We signed a good football player who became a Heisman Trophy winner, and we won 14 games. And the unfortunate, sad truth to that is that it'll always go down as a national championship year in the history of Auburn, but it should have been able to be classified and described as exactly what it was. There was a bunch of young guys and a bunch of coaches that worked their rear end off to win a national championship, and they went undefeated. And that's the beginning and the end of the story. In anything or any way that it gets tainted other than that is simply not right. And I'm going to say one thing more about Cam Newton. I will jump to his defense because what that young man went through and the focus and the way he carried himself under unbelievable scrutiny, and again, for something that he was just trying to go to school and be a college student and be a college quarterback. And he had to endure a lot of unfair criticism that at the end of the day, when the NCAA finally left Auburn, Cam, our coaches, for 13 or 14 months, whatever that was, we were dragged through the mud. And when the NCAA left, they didn't find anything that indicated anybody was paid or anybody was offered money. So I'm going to go one step further for all the people that are educated and have common sense. If you don't know how the NCAA works, they're very thorough in their investigations. Let me make that clear. They're very thorough in their investigations. You want me to back that up with fact? I'll name them. Miami, Ohio State, North Carolina, most recently Oregon, USC. So how could they come into Auburn and leave and find nothing, and that becomes a one-sentence statement after getting drugged through the mud for 13 months? How is that right? It's not right. So my point is that that was a magical season for the Auburn people, for us as coaches, and all of our players, and it should be remembered as just that. And nothing more.
As you knew back in 2010 that there was nothing to hide, there was nothing wrong, how hard was it for you on a week-by-week basis to not come out and say that?
I want you guys to imagine what you know is truth. I want you to imagine walking into your house, and I want you to imagine looking at your children and then saying, "Hey, Daddy, at school, I heard X, Y, and Z. Did you really do that?" "No, we didn't, son." "Well, then why don't you tell everybody?" "Because we can't." So how hard would that be for anybody at this table? So I knew that there was nothing in there that we did wrong. You ask how hard it is. People say, "Why did you come and give the same answer every week?" How many times in different ways can you ask the same question and I got to give you the same answer? Because what people don't understand, if they don't understand NCAA investigation, is that you cannot impede the progress of an investigation. So however you want to word it, You can change up the verbs and the nouns and the syllables and but it's got to be the same message. And the message is, I can't discuss it. So was that hard? Yes, that hard. But you know, the only thing we were trying to do is eventually get to the truth. And we wanted to make sure, because our compliance staff did a great job in making sure that we were getting to the truth. When the investigation was over, the truth was out.
Gene, the scrutiny has been so much more than the last 19 days. Over the course of 2 years, was that draining even all the way into the course of the 2012 season?
You know, it is draining. And again, the reason it's draining is because you try to figure out exactly why there's so much scrutiny, and you go back to the 2010 season. It started there, and you know, over you know, whatever it was, 2 years, 2.5 years, it just seemed like it never ended. But from my glasses and the way I saw it, it's very frustrating, because you know you're operating this football program exactly the way you need to do it. Every decision was made with the best intent, and so it's really just hard to, you know, operate day by day with what I consider to be, you know, the most scrutinized and sometimes villainized program in the country, and I just didn't see the facts and the data that ever came out that indicated it should have been, and we should have been, and I still don't.
When you say that it was a Mississippi State problem and became an Auburn problem, what makes you think it led to that? Why do you think that happened?
I have no idea. Is there assumptions out there that because something, and I don't know everything that happened in Mississippi State. I didn't have time to figure that out. I didn't have time to read about Mississippi State. I was trying to win football games. So, you know, how that became a Mississippi State issue, and then all of a sudden it was assumed, and there was accusations out there, well, if something happened there, it had to have happened here. I don't see the logic in it. Because obviously they left and found that there was nothing there. So again, and they're very thorough. They're very good at what they do in investigations. And so do I see and do I have any reasoning behind why it became an Auburn problem? No.
You've had a few months to reflect now. How do you look back on your time at Auburn?
You know, number one, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that I was given here to be the head coach. I'll never look back on any place that I've been, and when people give me opportunities, I'm very appreciative of that. I'm very appreciative that we were able in our first 3 years to accomplish what I think is a lot of memorable moments. You know, we had 30 wins in 3 years. We had 3 bowl game wins against 3 very good teams. We had an SEC championship, a national championship, and a Heisman Trophy winner, and a Lombardi Award winner. And there's a lot of people that can wear the Auburn colors, and they can wear that shirt that says national champion on it, and I'm very proud of that. And you know, that's something that I'll always look back on very fondly. Obviously, I don't want to go into detail about last year and all that, but it was very disappointing for myself as a coach, anybody that loves Auburn. But one thing I will say is that I'm a big boy, and I understand the business. And whether it's the SEC or the NFL, the bottom line is you have to win. And if you don't, and people have to make changes, I got into this business 27 years ago understanding how the business works. 27 years, I've never been dismissed from a job. So I'm in uncharted waters and uncharted territory, but I'll tell you this, I understand the business well enough to know that I'm not bitter. I have no remorse. I'm sure you'd like to look back and reflect and change some things because that's just human nature. but I don't look back on anything here but a lot of fond memories. And you know, again, just you know, looking back on the last year, you know, just disappointed with it, like everybody else was. So, but no regrets and no bitterness. And again, I'm still living in this community. So I think that says a lot right there.
You listed your accomplishments, and of course, the national championship stands out first and foremost. Just 2 years removed from that national championship is when you were dismissed. Should Auburn have been more patient, more maybe forgiving of one bad season in your mind?
You know, I can't make the decisions for the people that make the decision. I mean, I can't give, you know, my opinion on what they should or shouldn't have done. Well, I've liked to have had the opportunity to come back and fix what I felt like, you know, upon reflection that, you know, I had a good idea of where we were going and what we were doing. We had a great recruiting class going. It's water under the bridge. Auburn did what they had to do. And again, the decisions that they make, those are the guys that they have to do what they think is in the best interest of the university. So they did it. And again, it's part of the profession.
You mentioned earlier on the radio about, you know, possibly getting back into coaching. Did you have any opportunities this past year, and how soon do you see yourself trying to jump back in as maybe an assistant or head coach somewhere?
Well, you know, right now, you know, we're just assessing everything. You know, right now I'm doing a lot of kind of consulting with different teams, and you know, defensively, and doing some traveling and things of that nature, and we've certainly looked into different possibilities job-wise, not just in football, but other arenas as well. But there's no decisions definitively that have been made. I feel really good about, you know, the direction we're headed, and meaning me and my family, and the plan that we have moving forward. But I still feel like I had a lot to offer in the coaching field as a head coach, and so I'm certainly not saying that that's not a direction that down the road I would like to go again, potentially. But I want to make this very clear, that's not why I'm out here. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this and coming out with what I have to say because it's the right thing to say, and I want to clear up a lot of misconceptions and a lot of accusations that are false.
There's a lot of, as you said, a lot of allegations in those reports, both the ESPN report, obviously the Roots-Go report. Without going through all of them, is there anything in there that you would say is actually accurate? Is there anything in there that you would not say is a misconception?
You know, there's going to be some opinion in there that you really can't comment whether it's accurate or not. But as far as the allegations that are very indicting to a university in terms of non-compliance with rules, I can't think of every single allegation in there, but I can say that the majority of the ones, certainly ones that get your attention, as in changing of grades, which is very, very, that's a very bold, and that's a very out on a limb accusation, because now you're indicting university professors, a whole university itself, as I said in my statement when I put it out 2 weeks ago, that, to be quite honest, not just for me, but a lot of people, is very offensive. And as the internal investigation unfolded at Auburn, found to be not true. The payment of players is absurd. And the notion that we would pay a player of any way, shape, or form to either come to Auburn or stay at Auburn is absurd. So there's more out there, but I think you get the message.
One of the other ones from Mike McNeil in that report was basically saying that you practiced racism towards black players with tattoos that wore dreadlocks. Any truth to that at all?
Absolutely not. And that's very hurtful. And unfortunately, if that's the way that he saw it, you know, I've been coaching 27 years, and I have never, one time, in 27 years, been accused of that. One of the things that I've taken the most pride in being a coach is the rapport with my players and the impact that I've at least tried to have on a lot of their lives. And the last team meeting that I was in at Auburn, when I told them that I was let go, as I walked out the door, there was a standing ovation. And within 3 minutes of the time I got back to my office, the players were lined up all the way down the hall. So I'm only telling you that because that's very hurtful. Why he says that, what the basis is, I don't know. But never in 27 years has one football player ever made that accusation about me.
One of the other accusations in it was, and I think Ms. Roberts' story, she addressed this again today, speaking of a culture of working to cover up in some way the police and some of the things that were going on there. You spoke to that in your statement 3 weeks ago. Have you, in your role as a coach at any time here at Auburn or elsewhere, worked with the local police department or law enforcement to in any way infringe on their process or investigation?
Absolutely not. To the contrary of how I answered that this morning, that there was allegations that we, didn't get back to the family till 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The facts simply state that there was 4 phone calls made starting at 9:01 in the morning for communication. But one of the things that I will make very clear, when there's a police investigation going on, and you don't have all the facts, okay, then you can't interfere with what is going on between the police investigation and the families. So I can 100% tell you that we were in full compliance anytime there was an issue that was regarding the Auburn Police Department. Tommy Dawson has an impeccable record. He was the chief at the time, and there is absolutely no way we would do anything other than fully comply. So I can't tell you why those accusations are made. As a matter of fact, I'm not really sure what any of that means or what the insinuation is. I can't even fathom what that means, but I can just tell you in answer to your question, that's never been done by any coach here, including myself.
Gene, with all the accusations that have come out, the spice, the synthetic marijuana, at the time, we know it wasn't legal. We know the NCAA, or was legal. The NCAA didn't have a test for it. You guys didn't have a test for it. Did you ever think that that was something that would turn into be this story 2 years later, that it was an epidemic or whatever it's called?
Never, Mike. And I think that, you know what, let me tell you something. Again, I'm going to talk about the 2 young men that are on trial, basically with a lot at stake for their life. And if this is the defense, I'm not going to stand here and act like I know what it's like to be in their shoes. And I wish things would have turned out differently for them. I wish that. But you've got those accusations as a defense for people that are on trial, basically, again, for a lot of years involved with their life, whether they go to prison or they don't. And the sad thing that I want to make very clear is you cannot take the you can't take 2 people's perception of what they think is a huge problem and indict a whole university, coaches, other players. And again, I'm going to go back to facts, because when we started testing, this notion that 50% of our football team was smoking it, let me tell you this. This is not a performance-enhancing drug. Okay, so let's use a little common sense here. It's a performance-debilitating drug. So if half of our football team is on it during our 2010 national championship run, how are we performing at a level that was the best football team in the country? That doesn't even make sense. And then let me give you some data. When we did start testing, 10% or less of our team tested positive. Was that too many? Yes. But let's keep in mind, you got on one hand the drug is illegal, but on the other hand they can go into the convenience store and still buy it off the shelf. Try telling that one to your children. And explain to them, oh yeah, it's illegal, but you can go buy it in the convenience store. So we knew there was issues, and we were aggressive in our approach, and we handled it the way we needed to handle it. And I'm very comfortable with the way we should have done it. But I will say this: 10% or less of your football team, at a time when everybody's trying to figure the drug out, because it's widespread, not at Auburn. This wasn't just an Auburn problem. This was a country problem. This was a military. The military's trying to figure it out. The government's trying to figure it out. The NCAA is trying to figure it out. So when we test, and the data, not opinion, the data shows less than 10%. That's a far cry from 50. And then let me give you one other compelling fact. Okay? As we went through the year to figure the drug out, trying to change university policy, which was ongoing at the time, once we changed the university policy, we got the test in place the way it needed to be in terms of detail and revised. Since they started testing, there's been 2,500 random tests with three individuals positive for the test. So is that an epidemic? Because I'm not even sure what the word epidemic means. But I know this: if there's 2,500 random tests, 3 individuals test positive, would you like it to be 0? You bet. But in my opinion, if you look at the numbers, it's overwhelming evidence that the transition period of us trying to figure out what the drug was, how to get it under control, educate, test for it, I think the facts say that it was pretty effective.
Gene, you spent 27 years coaching continuously, as you mentioned. What have these last 4 months been like, not working?
It's been a time of reflection. I'm not one to dwell on the past and look at all the what ifs and things of that nature, but naturally you reflect. My job is to spend a lot of family time right now, come up with what our next plan is in terms of whatever that may be. But I spent a lot of quality time with my children and my wife, which I needed to do, and I still am doing, and I will continue to do. But I've also stayed busy. And I'm in a place right now where, again, I'm just kind of continuing to map out a plan, so to speak.
Because you're still in the community, what have the responses been with fans? Right?
Well, I mean, the people have been very positive, and again, this is a great community, and that's why we chose to stay in it.
Gene, can you talk about ESPN's coverage of this whole thing? Do you think it's been fair and ethical?
I don't want to single out one single entity, but I'm going to say this, Mark. I think it's the responsibility of any news agency or anybody that is going to be able to put something in writing or have something on the radio or put something on TV that could potentially be damaging to universities, groups of people, individuals that are unsubstantiated in nature. It's their responsibility, in my opinion, to do your work before you put out your product. If everybody in journalism was measured 12 times on a Saturday by what they wrote, what they put out, what was on TV, it'd be really interesting to see what their record would be, like coaches are. So I'm not going to point the finger at anybody. I'm only going to address what I think were false and unsubstantiated allegations. And again, I want to point out the fact that What Auburn did and what I'm suggesting is that we do everything based on facts and data, and I think it's undisputed.
Gene, help me to understand, since, as you say, these allegations that were aimed at you, and obviously the Groton, but you as an individual were so wrong and hurtful, as you said, why not seek any future legal action?
You know, look, I'm just here for truth. I don't need to, I don't need to go and, take people to court and, do things of that nature. I'm just here for truth, because it's very important that the integrity and the character that I have stood for in all my years of coaching. It's very important that the integrity and character is brought to the light, because the bottom line is that's what I've been known for 20 plus years. And I want to make sure that, again, it's an explosion of the truth.
But by not doing so, could you see where it is clearly that some of these statements, both by you and by Auburn, is addressing critics and cynics out there who, particularly with the 2010 team, who believe that a Mississippi State problem continued here without those facts and whatnot. By coming up short of a legal action, do you see it at all as perhaps allowing those to continue to think that?
No, I don't. Not at all. It's personal preference.
Gene, we all know kind of Gene, I'm sure Cam, every job interview he had before the draft, he had to talk about allegations, whatever the NCAA said, whatever you guys said. Do you feel like that's kind of an onus on a burden on you now, that whether this stuff is substantiated or not, every time you go looking for a new job, that you're going to have to spend quite a bit of time talking about this?
It's not about me looking for a new job, John. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with it. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because of what I just said. That it's important to me that the integrity and character of who I am, what I believe in, and what I stand for, that the truth is out there and brought to the forefront. That's it. It's not about me getting another job. Again, am I confident in my abilities as a football coach or whatever else is that I decide to do? Absolutely. But that's not what this is about.
Will you have a preference when that time does come for you to get back into coaching? Are you open to, obviously you've been a defense coordinator at a few places and you've got a lot of experience there, you've also been a head coach. Are you open to anything? You wanting to go directly back into head coaching? What's your preference?
Again, my representatives and myself, we're working through a lot of these different questions and ideas. I can really say that the most accurate response to that is when we feel like the right opportunity presents itself, whatever that may be, we'll talk through it and we'll look at it and we'll pursue it. And if the right opportunity doesn't present itself, obviously, then we'll look in another direction. So I can't pigeonhole myself into whether I want to be this, or this. Do I think that, again, I'm very confident in my abilities as a coach, both as a head coach and a defensive coordinator, absolutely. But I'm not going to, say that I wouldn't do one versus wouldn't do the other. The right opportunity just has to present itself.
Also, has it been awkward for you, or has it strained a relationship, obviously doing ESPN work, that it was an ESPN story that came out? Has that strained a relationship with ESPN or been awkward at all?
Well, again, I'm not pinpointing anybody or any entity. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to, talk about what this person did or that person did or this person did or this entity did. I'm just simply here to bring to light what I think is the truth.